This is just going to be a short introduction to lesson 9.4. This is going to be talking about conditional probability at the beginning. Remember that conditional probability, we mentioned it a few times, but we haven't really used it yet. Conditional probability is given that something has already happened, then what does that mean? So given that it's a rainy day, what's the probability that you take an umbrella? That's going to be a different probability than if we didn't know if it was a rainy day. So a condition's already existing. The way we note that is P for probability of A given that B has already happened. So B is the event that has already happened, so it's in the past. It's a given. And the way that you figure out that probability is this formula right here. You're going to find the probability of A intersect B. So in other words, what's the probability that they both happen? And so that's where you multiply. And we're going to divide it by the probability of B happening by itself. Okay, the next thing that you see on your paper is there's a list of different rules, and so multiplication rules, some of these are familiar already. If you have independent events, so in other words, if two events are happening independent of each other, then the way that you find the intersection of A and B is you multiply them. Another thing that you could do is you could say that the probability of A and B is the same thing as the probability of A times the probability of B given that A already happened, or the probability of B given that times the probability of A given that B already happened. We can use this to prove whether two events are independent. So if we ask you a question that says, are these two events independent or dependent, you can actually use that formula to prove whether or not they're dependent or independent. So if this is equal to this, then you know that they're independent. Also, if they're independent, then the probability of A given B is approximately the same as probability of A by itself, because B doesn't matter, and vice versa as well. The probability of A given B is also about equal to B given that A already happened, because they don't affect each other. And then if you have dependent events, the probability of them both happening is the probability of A times the probability of B given that A already happened. So let's do a couple examples, and then you're going to be doing something else. So using a standard deck of cards, find the following. You're going to write your answer as a simplified fraction, as a decimal rounded to the nearest hundredth as well. So what's the probability of getting a red card if you already know that you have a face card? So basically, I'm telling you that the card that you're going to look at is already a face card. So you know it's narrowed down to 12 cards. And so out of 12 cards, what's the probability that it's red? Well, all the face cards are either red or black, and they're half and half, and so it's going to be one half. And another way that you can look at that is 6 out of the 12. Number 2, what's the probability that you have an ace if you already know you have a spade? So if I say this card is a spade, what's the probability that it's an ace? Well, 1 out of every spade is an ace. The rest of them are other things, and so that would be the probability of that. That one is actually the same thing as if, what's the probability of just getting an ace, period? And that's also 1 out of 13. The probability of a queen card, given that it's a black card. So if I say this card I'm holding is black, what's the probability that it's a queen? So there are 2 black queens, and there are 26 black cards. So 2 out of the 26. And so that's 1/13. For the rest of the lesson, you are going to follow the links in the document. So you'll want to go to the Canvas page, and you'll want to open up the electronic copy of this notes, and it will take you to, it will give you all the links. So go to these links that you see, and what those links will do is they'll take you to a site that's going to explain how to do the types of questions that follow. In addition, I will have a separate video that will show some brief explanations as well.